Welcome to Click for IB Biology. Here we're at the last video in the sequence that looks at D3.1 reproduction, and we're going to be looking at hormones and birth and HRT treatment. There's a PDF of this presentation that's linked into the description down below. Download that, annotate with your own notes, and then why not from the same place down below take the 10 questions, check the answers, and evaluate your own learning. So at the end of the third trimester, the progesterone production by the placenta begins to decline. At the same time, so we got two inputs. We got the declining progesterone levels, and we also have the child will then engage in the lower part of the uterus head first, and this causes a stretching reflex in the lower uterus. So the declining progesterone levels and the stretching of the uterus in the lower regions feeds back to the maternal pituitary, and in response she produces the hormone known as oxytocin, which itself is quite a small hormone. Oxytocin causes myometrial contraction, which then pushes the child lower into the uterus, down to the cervix, causing a stretching in the lower regions of the uterus. And in turn, this creates further nerve impulse feedback to the pituitary and further oxytocin production. And clearly, we have here a positive feedback loop. At the same time, there are prostaglandins produced, which in addition cause the stimulation of the myometrial contractions, but the details of these will not be considered here. The child, once the child is then born, of course, the positive feedback loop is then finished. In women's health studies in the 1980s, with the onset of side effects of menopause, so as the menstrual cycle comes to an end and no further production of estrogen and progesterone occurs from the ovary, there are, of course, multiple side effects. And of course, this is explained because both estrogen and progesterone have multiple targets, not just single targets. As an example, estrogen is associated with the absorption of calcium from the gut, and without estrogen, calcium absorption is inhibited, and this results in conditions such as osteoporosis or brittle bone condition. There are multiple side effects associated with the end of the fertile cycle and the menopause. And so this is why there was introduced what is known as hormone replacement treatment or hormone replacement therapy, HRT. It was claimed in the 1980s that this HRT treatment not only offset these effects, but also improved cardiovascular health. As we progressed through the 1990s, there was a growing enthusiasm in medical circles that this was still the case, and this was based on these initial assumptions made in the 1980s. However, at the turn of the millennium, just before and after, there were a number of trials, randomized studies, the HERS trials, and the WHI trials, Women Health Initiative trials, and these produced evidence that suggested that these presumed benefits were not warranted, and indeed there was some suggestion that where a person had gone 10 years past their menopause, that using HRT could actually accelerate coronary disease. And so today, the contemporary view of this is less enthusiasm for the use of HRT, and certainly in its use as a means of preventing coronary heart disease. In fact, I understand that the advises that over 60 and 10 years after the sensation, or the initiation rather, of menopause, then HRT is not recommended for this purpose. And so this shows how medical opinion can be changed on the basis of experimentation, observation, and reevaluation of initial hypotheses. And so that takes us to the end of D 3.1 and reproduction. I'd appreciate it if you could subscribe to the channel. It's really appreciate it. And the playlist, if you want to go through all of the videos, is on the right hand side there. Good luck with your studies.